is Pondering Pixar, completing the shelf's review of the top 10 Pixar movies. And now, your hosts, Alex and Chris.
Welcome back to the Completing the Shelf channel here on YouTube, and a Pondering Pixar episode for your pleasure today. He is Chris, I am Alex. We are back once again on Completing the Shelf, adding to our shelf while we ponder Pixar, recording today just after the 10-year anniversary of the film we will be discussing, the 9th film that Pixar released as a feature film. We would present to you the motion picture known as WALL-E. Released June 27th, 2008. Directed by Andrew Stanton and Pete Docter. Directed by Andrew Stanton. Written by Stanton and Docter. But they did some good things. But yes, not exactly a star-studded cast unless you count WALL-E as the star, or Ben Burt, who was the voice of WALL-E, as the star of this film. But eventually you do get actors such as Jeff Garlin, Fred Willard, Kathy Najimy, and Sigourney Weaver.
And our trivia question person.
Trivia, yes. Of course. And there's a John Ratzenberger appearance, of course, and there's also a Kathy Najimy, who you may have heard of from such films as Hocus Pocus, amongst others, but again, her Sanderson sister portrayal stands out. Of course, Sister Act. And fun fact, she is the voice of Peggy Hill. There you go. You can end the episode right there. No, it has nothing to do with WALL-E. I'm sorry.
We've learned enough, and we're done.
You've learned something now. You can go about your daily life. But this was, as mentioned, film number 9 that Pixar released towards the end of Phase 2 of what became now their 20 feature films. This was an instant hit. $180 million budget, $533 million gross worldwide. Golden Globe, Academy Award, all sorts of awards for Best Animated Feature Film, which, rightfully so, it was the best animated feature film of its sort of competition, no question. In the size and scope of where it ranks within the highest rated Rotten Tomatoes films, it finishes, well, appropriately 9th as the 9th film. A Rotten Tomatoes score conglomerated at 96%. Certified fresh.
You're falling into our top 10 of Pixar movies that we're reviewing, so perfect that it made the list.
It is on the list, and you voted for it, so tough. You have to listen to us talk about it for the next however many minutes.
And they just pressed pause and they closed the tab.
Oh, man. I mean, does that count as a view then? Because they heard me talk for at least 2 minutes. That should count as a view. That's YouTube's algorithms right there. Alex talks for 2 minutes. That's a view.
It does. If you listen for like 10 seconds or less, you count as a view. But then it might not be monetized because you have to listen a certain percentage for it to be a monetized view.
That's why we always ask you to download and never listen. But anyway, aside from less just diving headfirst into this film, let's pause and ask. How are you, sir? Are you good? Life's good?
I'm doing well. 4th of July week, my daughter's school's closed. So starting today, they're closing at noon. So it's from here till next Monday. No, 2 Mondays from now. It's all daddy daycare summertime.
Woohoo!
So I'm in the middle of planning all my little adventures to have with the girl, which might include trying to take her to a movie.
Oh.
You know, those cheap movies they show for kids and in the mornings in the summer.
I don't know what you're talking about. They don't allow me in those types of theaters.
Yeah, well, oh, really? Oh. Is there
No, I'm kidding.
Something I should
I'm kidding.
know? This just got weird.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
Sorry. Side note, my parents are officially moving down today from the Garden State. They'll be arriving later today via the Amtrak Auto Train.
Very
Aha.
nice.
Rather than driving I-95, they decided, Amtrak, drag us, and we will park our car as if it was our own suitcase. And they have a humongous moving truck of furnitures and stuff coming down in the next 2 weeks. But officially, they moved down here, and they'll be Floridians, and it will be fun.
So they're trading their gardens and smog for sunshine and lightning.
As one friend of mine put it, they're trading in their snow shovels for golf clubs.
Yes. Your parents are golfers? Isn't your mom a golfer?
Very much so. As a teacher, she has realized that, I have no children now. They are grown up, and I have time in the afternoon. I'm going to go learn how to play golf because I don't want to sit on my keister and do nothing. So literally, she's like become obsessed with the game of golf, which is wonderful to watch. But at the same time, it's made her probably a better, more frequent golfer than I am. I'm not saying better because I'll probably hit it farther and play smarter, but whatever. She loves it. She's addicted. She got bit by the golfing bug, and she's got a playing partner in Dad, so everyone wins.
Cool. So, Wally.
Yes.
Those humans in this movie are definitely not golfing.
No, that they think they are, but they really are not. It's complicated. Here's why. In a dystopian, distant future of planet Earth, we find that our green world is abandoned, absolutely covered in trash. Its population being evacuated by, I don't know, it's like, do you call them like a megacorp? Do you call them like the business turned government? It's kind of thought of in that way, that they're just so big that they kind of rule over our lives without a real government stopping them, it seems like.
Yeah, it's like a private sector business that became and usurped the role of a government.
Correct. The trash has become so bad on Earth that they are sending humans away. The idea is that they'd send them away for a 5-year space cruise through the galaxy, come back, and all of the lovely Wally robots, the army of Wally robots, will have cleaned up Earth and made everything all better. It's a key word in the, children's lexicon, all better,
Mm-hmm.
Wally is short for Waste Allocation Load Lifter Earth Class. It's a robot developed, this particular Wally that we get to watch has developed a sentence of his own. He has his own functionality outside of the traditional robot mindset, and he's learned a whole lot of fun tricks to make himself waste away the days doing the job he thinks he has to continue to do, and that is continue to take the trash and move it from here to there. So he does so with the help of, well, I guess it's a friend, but I don't think we've ever learned to love a cockroach more than this movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's Pixar going with balls to try and make you fall in love with a cockroach.
Yeah. So at some point, Wally is joined by a visitor from somewhere out in space that he doesn't have any idea why she is there, or, well, we assume it's a she because it looks clean and not nearly as chiseled as our beloved anti-hero. Yeah, sure. We'll say that too. That works. She has a sort of glossy white
Apple iPhone kind of aesthetic.
Yeah, she is aided by modern technology of the time to move about. She's got scanners. She's got an amazing laser cannon for an arm, which she is quick on the trigger, which is kind of adorable.
What's her name?
Eva. We learn that she is simply known as an extraterrestrial vegetation evaluator, simply known as Eva. They meet and kind of frolic about in ways on the planet, but it's not exactly wine and roses right out the gate. It's a bit of a standoffish, and they're very awkward around one another, which I'm sure will happen after you've been, marooned on a planet for 700 years.
Well, what's sweet about this is that Wally's been watching all these movies and romances and developing kind of sentience, like you said, and sees Eve as a way to live these modeled ways of life out, right? A companion,
Yes.
which is really sweet.
It really is. I mean, most of his days, Wally was typically just fulfilling the directive: clean up the trash, move it to these, what he created was essentially trash skyscrapers, which are brilliantly designed. But along the way, the sort of things that are out of place of trash that he finds interesting, he's pretty much collected in what was essentially a home for himself and his fellow robots. Now it's just filled with, like, rubber ducks, Zippos, all sorts of strange things. And I think one of my favorite parts of that particular amalgamation of stuff that he has is when he discovers the spork. Because he's literally collected spoons, and he's got another one full of forks. He's like, all right, I'll just put it in the middle. So that was a kind of a brilliant thing. Along the way, Wally, again, trying to be the hopeless romantic that he has been now for some time, he finds Eve a plant. And all of a sudden, Eve jumps for joy, loses her mind, but all of a sudden goes into sort of a, I guess, sleep mode, you could call it.
Yeah.
He's confused. He's finally got someone to play with, another fellow robot, and all of a sudden, she's, like, permanently asleep.
Except for a flashing green little leaf light on her chest.
Yeah. This shows that she has plant life, I guess, or some kind of growing life that is back on the home planet.
So what was Eve's mission directive? We know Wally's. What's Eve's?
So she was directed to locate, I guess, any sort of growing life, organic life on Earth, and verify that the planet is, of course, livable again. That's her directive. That's we learned that word very quickly in this movie, directive. So, all the while, the music piped in lovingly by the great Thomas Newman. Another reason why this really did fantastic as a film. I think Newman really created a wonderful, playful soundtrack for us to enjoy, which was great. I really, really liked it.
Yeah, we'll talk about Newman later when we talk about things we like, I guess.
Newman! No, that's not Seinfeld again. No, let's not talk about Seinfeld again. You're right. I'm sorry.
Newman!
So, at some point, just like how she got here in the first place, Eva was dropped off by a spaceship that just randomly stopped by Earth in the eyes of Wally, and now that Eva has possibly fulfilled her directive, this ship has come back again, taking Eva away from Wally. Sadly, Wally, confused, does not want to leave his beloved, climbs aboard the ship that takes him through the galaxy into the Starliner, the crown jewel of the By and Large fleet, which is the name of the company, By and Large. It's a play on words. Just like their CEO and Supreme Overlord, Shelby Forthright, played by Fred Willard. Hilarious name for a CEO, Shelby Forthright. Anyway, yeah, I'm like, that's not true at all. Because you later learn that everything that you thought was good, anyway.
Yeah.
Of course, it takes a sinister turn. Wally is clinging for dear life aboard the rescue ship that is there to take Eva back to the Axiom.
Giving us some gorgeous visuals.
Oh, yes. Space porn. In the sense that it's outer space and galaxies and stars and such, not the other not so appropriate pornography.
Yes.
Which reminds me of the Gutter Kids. So, Eva gets back onto the ship. We meet Mo, who is essentially a maintenance ordnance bot who is designed to, or a microbe obliterator. I call him a maintenance ordinator because he's the one that wants to make sure everything is like obsessively clean. Like, he is an OCD person in a robot form. It is adorable. But he's there to make sure everything is clean, ship tip-top, so that way there's no contaminants on board the ship, which is pristine.
Can you tell me about life on the ship?
Well, it was designed, again, for simply a 5-year cruise, where people could live their lives happy and free, with pools and hover chairs for the mobility aided that needed them, and you're pretty much taken care of by a crew of robots who will cater to your every whim. What could go wrong? Truly, a 5-year cruise. Sadly, we learn at some point...
5-year mission to go where no man has gone before. Or a 3-hour tour.
Yeah, either way, whichever you want to spell it out to the passengers. But at some point, it's just kind of a daze and a haze of all the passengers on board. They're not really aware of where they are, how long they've been there, and sadly, because of the artificial gravity, I guess, and their reliance upon the robots and the hover chairs and the whatnot, these humans have become morbidly obese to the point where the microgravity, I guess, on the ship and the reliance on the computers, it is just to the point where it's just like, holy crap. This is like a foretelling of all the things we will be as a society. Oh, God. The pilot, or the captain of this ship, is pretty much helpless to the robots. He's under his own sort of malaise. Autopilot, simply named Otto, which is really lazy if you ask me, but it's brilliant.
I think it's perfectly Pixar.
Equal parts lazy and brilliant. Who knows? Anyway, Otto is pretty much running the show because he's following directives from, by and large, headquarters. Because that's what he was told to do. That's what robots were told to do. That's what they're going to do. And that's, however they need to achieve it, that's what they're going to do. Hell or high water. Of course, Eva is now brought to the attention of the captain, voiced by Jeff Garlin. But really, this commanding officer is a pure figurehead. He's pretty much got all the ship's duties handed over to the autopilot. The autopilot is in true command of the Axiom. It's really kind of disorienting in that sense. But thankfully, Sigourney Weaver is there as the voice of the Axiom, which makes you all feel so much better. But I'm like, wait a minute. Wasn't she on a spaceship way back when? And
yeah, that didn't go well.
No, yeah. Anyway, we hope that there wasn't, any future issues with that. But we find out that Eva has a plant. We can go back to Earth? What? But all of a sudden, Otto takes over, and mysteriously, the plant goes missing. Eva looks faulty. Wally, unfortunately, finds himself there because, well, he just wants to see Eva again. He's just head over heels in love with this beautiful, beautiful bot. Wally is blamed because she thinks he is, of course, holding the plant from her to take her back to Earth, I guess. It gets complicated. Eventually, they are sent to a robot. I call it a robot mental hospital, but it's essentially where all of the broken-esque robots and the malfunctioning robots of the Axiom are all kind of sent together. But then they all have this idea of springing out of this sort of robot jail, and all we know is that there are rogue robots on the ship. Oh no, everyone, rogue robots. Eventually, we learn that the autopilot has been given a secret no-return directive, simply known as A113. Easter egg.
Yeah, what is that from? Toy Story?
A113 originated as an inside joke amongst the alumni of the California Institute of the Arts, who later became part of Pixar. So A113 simply refers to that. It's part of the license plate on Andy's mom's cars.
That's what I thought. Okay.
And there's also an airport announcement for Lasset Air Flight A113 in Toy Story 2.
And isn't there some of that in Incredibles 2 too?
As well,
Maybe?
Yes. It appears that there's various hints to that, but yeah, I guess we didn't give you a trivia question for we did give them an Incredibles 2 trivia question. We'll answer that in a moment.
Yeah, let's. So how does this conclude? How does it wrap up? Because we have this plant, we have the computer program trying to hide the fact that life is sustainable on Earth. What's the conflict here?
So the captain, who feels like he has a duty to bring the humans back to Earth and bring human life back to their home planet, pretty much mutinies against the autopilot. Or just auto mutiny against the captain. I'm not sure. Eventually, we realize that it is now a combined battle of humans and robots versus the evil companies. It's in the David and Goliath-esque fugue that evolves into the end of this movie. Eventually, they have the plant go exactly where it needs to on the ship to begin Axiom's return trip to Earth and begin the great restoration that would be our home planet. And all the while, Wally and Eva live happily ever after.
Yay!
Indeed. So it was certainly a story of love and maybe Hello Dolly in some strange way.
So their couple name would be Waliva. Like Brangelina. Waliva.
Yeah. I'm very happy that you decided to do that to them. It's one of my favorite couples of all time, and you've just disgraced them with just a horrible title.
So you really like this couple?
Certainly at the time, that it was one of the most inventive ways to show that in the future, even sentient beings can be in love. Certainly, that sort of date that they have of sorts, once they're back together on the Axiom, was certainly a lot of fun. The flying through space, all the while Captain McCrae learning about so many different things from Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to hint to move into our next segment, so let's do it.
Oh, yes. What did we like about this film? Enough about me. How about you? What did you like, Chris?
It's hard to talk about this film because it's unlike many of the other Pixar films.
Right.
Because it's more like an art piece than a movie.
Very much so.
So it's a beautiful piece of art. I mean, you could take any frame and put it up on the wall, and it's just gorgeous. Especially all the space stuff, the Eve, and the themes that are explored. It's like a good, rich short story. The man versus machine, but the machine can be good. All that type of stuff is really interesting, and how we're not taking care of our planet, and how that's leading to the de-evolution of our species, our reliance on screens. This is 2008, like the beginning of smartphones.
Yes.
And all the humans in this are 100% almost integrated into the technology, into the ship. Mm-hmm. They're no longer... it's like almost that transhumanism type thing. They're no longer just able to survive on their own biology. They have to have the technology to exist. So I love all that stuff. I think it's a rich film to discuss. I use it in my classroom. I show clips to talk about that theme of man versus science, but also to show how setting can really tell you a lot about the theme. And I love that scene where you're first seeing the humans and Wally's roaming around, and we have our, well, I'm not going to say the trivia question thing, but we have that thing going on. And
correct.
And it's great. So you told me before we recorded, this is like your favorite movie.
One of them. It's not like it's certainly one of, it stood out to me at the time because, like you said, all those sort of things that we are driving ourselves to dystopia. We are driving ourselves into a way of life that is going to upend everything we know, and we're going to be the demise of our own delights.
But the nuance that I appreciate of the film is that technology in the end is part of the solution. Correct. So it's not necessarily technology is bad, it's what we do with it and becoming over-reliant on it. So I
Correct.
like that nuance is there, because this could just be a simple smashing technology. Ah, it's terrible.
And this was 10 years ago.
I know. They have a good balance, a good look at the solution,
know.
but also the problem.
It's certainly, well, I'm not saying it's not getting any better, but at the same time, I think we definitely have a better understanding. And I think with this film, I think with maybe 3 other films before it, like Finding Nemo, Ratatouille in a way, and Cars really started to get to the point of bringing in some real world issues more than anything else into the stories of their films and trying to send a message. I feel like this one in particular was very true to the time. And even though it was set in a thought process of 700 or 800 years from now, in the year 2808, everything that was happening then was at the thought of the cause of what happened in this day and age, in the time we are right now.
Yeah, it's taking logically where we're at now
Yes.
and drawing conclusions where we might be.
But the idea that Wally, who all he's supposed to be doing is just cleaning up trash and putting it away, he's become his own realization. He has just become more aware of the fact that he is the only one. He's going to do what he can to do his job, but no one's really watching me, so I'm going to have a little fun along the way. Kind of that freeingness of being the only one around, but at the same time, that loneliness ultimately setting in.
And it's funny that Wally is the key to restoring humanity, because he's seeking out genuine connection, where the humans, they never interact face to face. They're always screen to screen, even if they're right next to their friend. You know, they're talking screen to screen. It's interesting contrast.
I mean, a lot of the design of Wally is brilliant. I mean, his face is literally, like his eyes are his only true emotion, and it literally looks like you're looking through a binocular of the human emotion spectrum when you're looking at him. It's kind of amazing in that sense. They literally thought of his eyes as that, binoculars. I think that's what they did. That's kind of brilliant. But again, just Pixar movies had really lacked that sort of cinematic look of having film distortion, lens flares, focus, things like that. And I think Stanton really wanted to make it feel realistic to that point and relive some of the science fiction films that he grew up with, which was, again, we'll take it. Yes, please. Thank you. So that was fantastic in that sense. But the film, and again, how it uses the pieces of the past to bring together things in the future, how, again, the technology and the humans can work together to bring order back to the chaos. I think that theme is fantastic throughout. And again, the brilliance of having the Axiom look as futuristic and as beautiful as we would want it to be, that was fantastic.
But it looks like an extrapolation of an Apple store, right?
Yeah.
So it's taking that aesthetic.
Everybody fell in love with that minimalistic design of the Apple Store when it first came out. They're still in love with it now. It's the simplicity and the minimalism that Apple sort of creates with their products. Everybody has fallen in love with that for the simplicity. Like, I just want it to work. Okay, here's the Mac. Oh my God! So, I'm saying that as an equal opportunity Windows and Mac person. I own an iPhone, but I'm recording on a Windows desktop. So be it. I find that there is no one perfect technology out there, and that's what and I think another thing that the film kind of hints at, that there's no one perfect technology out there. It has to be a combination of things.
Yeah, it's we have to rely on man and machine together.
So again, I've hinted about the soundtrack being fantastic. Thomas Newman doing a fantastic job writing the score, but he wrote the score at least like 2 or 3 years before the film was even due to be released, which is brilliant. But I think he only came up with Eve's theme and Eve's sort of musical emotions like about a year or two or less than a year before the movie was even scheduled to come out. because
wow.
they wanted it to sound a little bit more feminine, and I definitely feel like you watch Eve and it's got that more graceful, beautiful sort of movement to her music and her movement as a robot. So that was kind of cool. But it was one of those weird things you get into the movie and all of a sudden, hello, Dolly? Huh?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell's going on here? It sounds like Andrew Stanton found that the Put On Your Sunday Clothes, which opens the movie, was about his own love for theater back in the 80s when he was in a high school production of Hello, Dolly, and he himself played Barnaby. It was Wally's, he thought of it as Wally's own hope for companionship, I guess, which is brilliant.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. And then the whole "It Only Takes a Moment" scene where Barnaby and Barbra Streisand are holding hands. That's kind of like, oh, Wally gets it, but he's a robot. He's not supposed to get it. It's just a genius way to take old technology and make it new again. 800 years later. Brilliant.
Yeah, and to speak about the score, I love the tracks Eve, of course, 72 Degrees and Sunny, and Define Dancing. I think, Thomas Newman, he's a very prolific composer, but
Shawshank.
A lot of his music is not melodic. There's not a strong motif or theme that recurs, except for just this almost string hum that glows in the background.
Right.
So they're perfect for the screen, but when you listen to them without the film, it's kind of all samey. But Wally's score is a little more dynamic. There's a lot more going on, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so it was certainly a departure from that. I appreciated it. It did even get a nomination for Best Original Score and Best Original Song, that for Down to Earth with Peter Gabriel, which was a very good wrap-up song to the whole thing.
Yeah, let me just say, this film actually is enhanced by his glowy style because the visuals are so gorgeous and flowing and universe, like galactic scenes.
Oh yeah,
his style is perfect for this. So like a Michael Giacchino, he does great Pixar film scores, it wouldn't maybe work as well because we need this kind of just building effervescent, beautiful melody.
Yeah, Newman did a great job building the drama with
Absolutely.
the music. There's no question. So that was certainly a plus.
You ready to shelf, or you have a few more things you like?
I
mean, we could probably talk about this for 2 hours.
Yeah, I don't want to bore people with 2 hours about how the Septuacentennial Cupcake in a Cup has become our obsession that we still want in 2018, but whatever.
Yes.
I want a cupcake.
Try blue. Blue is the new red.
Yeah, blue is the new red. Oh, everybody does it.
Yep.
We asked you last week the first of the villains that you see in Incredibles 2 also appeared in the movie Incredibles, also voiced by the one and only John Ratzenberger, who has found his way into the hearts and minds of appearing in almost every Pixar film to date. But what was the name of that first villain that attempts to cause havoc upon Municiberg in both Incredibles and Incredibles 2? If you correctly guessed the Underminer, you are correct.
And I know you called him a cardboard villain in our review of Incredibles 2, but it works so well because it's a cartoon, and Incredibles is riffing on cardboard villains and superhero stuff.
Yes, but
so he's really fun. I love the Underminer.
Again, it's one of those things that the Underminer, because he looks like a mole, he's got mole-like teeth, he digs under things for crime, all of the things.
I mean, his great catchphrase, "Prepare to be undermined."
Oh my god.
I love it. So terrible.
There is a Funko Pop of Underminer that's available on the interwebs if you really need him. But congratulations if you somehow guessed that the Underminer was indeed the villain initially is portrayed by John Ratzenberger from both Incredibles and Incredibles 2. But let's go ahead and transition now to placing this film, Wall-E, on a shelf. Chris, I'll give you the honors.
Well, this is gonna be a Captain America Winter Soldier moment
What?
for us. You love this movie, and I can only theorize what your shelf might be. My shelf, I've struggled. My first gut reaction was a third shelf. And it's because rewatchability is pretty low for me in this. It's not that engaging. It's gorgeous. It's a piece of art. It's a masterpiece. But it's not something I want to watch often. And it's a little slow in the pacing because it's just building the world. And there's not like a traditional protagonist, which is brave. I love the risk they took with it. So I don't think it's a third shelf. I cannot put it there because it is a masterpiece technically. So I would put it on the second shelf, only because I don't rewatch it often. And maybe I've seen the movie twice.
Okay. See, this is probably now the third film in a row where I find myself providing more love for something than you are. Monsters, Inc., you threw it on the third shelf. Incredibles 2, you only put it on your second shelf. But
Sure.
This film, again, has reached my top shelf. I truly feel it was a very, very appropriate wake-up call, sign of the times film that we had never seen before from Pixar, and the combination of Newman's beautiful score, the dazzling Pixar visuals of finally making a cinematic film instead of a family film. Not that this was not family-friendly, it certainly was, but it felt like a more grown-up treat than it would have been for kids, in the sense that there was a lot of fantastic reference to popular culture from far gone eras, the hope that this new technology will and still can be our friend if we can learn to live with it and sort of depend on it. And the love story that is Wall-E and Eva. It was certainly something that spoke to me as the younger me was a sort of a forlorn, hopeless romantic. So it's
very sweet.
It really is. But I certainly understand where you say there's a slow build to the thing, but you have to, again, take into consideration we're supposed to be minding a gap that is only 5 years in length. It turned into 700.
Sure.
So there was questions that sort of needed to be answered and more polish to the story that needed to be provided. But it was certainly concise in that sense that once you got off that first half of the movie, the remaining 40 some odd minutes of adventure and interaction with the Axiom and the robots and the humans that are on board certainly goes very, very well.
Yeah, and I wouldn't change a moment of the movie. It's perfect. It just doesn't grab me. That's all. All
right.
It's like a novel everyone should read, but it's not a novel that everyone's going to run to read over and over again.
I understand.
So can we turn to our shelf nerds out there, because they gave us some reviews and they put them on our shelves.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, so we have a top shelf vote from none other than your sister Angela.
Well, she's like great minds think alike.
Kool-Aid, right?
No, there's no Kool-Aid.
Yeah. We have a second shelf from Jill Robertson.
Oh yeah, my
coworker, right?
One of my office buddies. Yes, absolutely.
And Jill gives us a review. She says it's a second shelf because I'm just going to read it in first person. Second shelf because I agree it's not as rewatchable as other Pixar films, but I could have it playing in the background while doing chores or something because of the soundtrack. The movie is mostly sound effects and limited one-sided dialogue for the first half until Wall-E meets Eva, and that's what I feel makes the movie unique. Plus, who'd have thought I would care if a cockroach got caught in a sandstorm?
Exactly.
So she's had similar sentiments there.
So, I'm going to talk about your sister now, because she...
Trading sisters.
Yeah, well, that doesn't sound... No, that... I just thought of them. Never mind.
Okay.
Megan, your sister, placed this on a third shelf, saying, quote, "Cute movie, but a little boring. Not very rewatchable for me. Wally and Eva are sweet, though." And then, to my defense, or I guess to her own defense, Jill also reminded her, "But the music!"
And I incorrectly labeled the composer as Michael Giacchino.
Yeah. Yeah. You lose points. It's okay. But it's something we agreed. The music is on point for sure. But we still want your reviews. Feel free to comment.
Well, we have one more shelf from Sam Anderson, putting it on the third shelf.
That's right. Sam did put on the third shelf, but didn't give us any reason why we should disregard his incorrect opinion. I mean, thanks, Sam, for your input. We appreciate that. And we continue to want your feedback and your information and your commentary. Please place them in the comments section below.
Alex's commentary and opinions do not reflect the full opinions of Completing the Shelf.
Or the Walt Disney Company or Pixar, but mostly America.
Yes.
Comment, subscribe, like, download, don't listen.
No, listen. Yeah.
I mean, if you have nothing better to do. No, I kid. We appreciate you listening to our beloved Pondering Pixar series. We will have a special treat for you coming soon.
Next week?
Yes. Well, this is coming out after that's already happened. But what I mean for that is coming up as the next episode is a story of family and dogs with their tongues out. We'll leave you with a sort of mystery about that, but we thank you for joining us here on the Completing the Shelf Completing the Shelf Thanos? No, that's not it.
Oh, speaking of Thanos, did you see how Infinity War should end?
Grimace.
The YouTube video?
No. What?
Oh, they just came out. You know how it should end, that YouTube series that takes movies and gives the alternate ending.
I'm
pretty humorous.
how it should have ended. Yes.
Yeah. Watch it. It's brilliant.
Okay.
It's really brilliant. Very good.
11 minutes of my life I may never get back.
With that said, thank you so much for joining us, and we're going to continue Pondering Pixar next week.
We'll see you soon. I push the red button.
And so have I.
Don't push the red button. Oh, I pushed the red button. Oh no.
Does anyone have tape?
Yeah. If anyone should have tape, it's you! I am Groot.
I am Groot. I am Groot.
No! Wait, we're not talking about that movie today. We're talking about a different one.